I'm Nicole Burley. It is Friday, August 20th. This is Rush Hour. Those top stories in just a moment. We have hundreds of reporters spread across the country, all part of our News Nation network of stations, which you can see right there. But first, we take you to New England, where the region is bracing for its first hurricane in 30 years. Tropical storm Henri expected to gain strength as it makes landfall this weekend. Hurricane warnings now in effect for most of Long Island and coastal Connecticut. New York City also under a tropical storm watch. Meanwhile, parts of the South still reeling from Tropical Storm Fred. 4 people dead, 5 still missing in North Carolina after the remnants of that storm raced through earlier this week. Now, across the country in California, another major city implementing a vaccine mandate today. You will have to prove you are fully vaccinated to do anything indoors in San Francisco, like eat or work out, or you'll be turned away. But we start tonight in Washington, D.C., where the president today pledged to bring Americans in Kabul back home. Earlier today, flights from the airport there were grounded for several hours, although they have since resumed. And News Nation's White House correspondent Allison Harris live for us tonight. Allison, tell us, what else did President Biden say?
Well, Nicole, President Biden is reaffirming his commitment to get every American out of Afghanistan. The U.S. has evacuated 13,000 people in 5 days. But the president also says that the U.S. does not know exactly how many Americans remain in the country. Crowds still in chaos at the airport in Kabul. This moment of a U.S. Marine hoisting a baby over the barrier, becoming a symbol of the desperation as thousands of Americans and Afghan allies rush to get out of the Taliban-controlled country. Friday, after a 7-hour-long halt to evacuation flights, the president said planes are back in the air, the U.S. finding new destinations for refugees after the massive U.S. base in Qatar reached capacity.
Even with the pause, we've moved out 5,700 evacuees yesterday.
But that falls short of the number of evacuations the Pentagon wants to see, aiming to get as many as 9,000 out daily. The president also says Americans are able to get to the airport safely.
We have no indication that they haven't been able to get in Kabul through the airport. We've made an agreement with the Taliban thus far. They've allowed them to go through. It's in their interest for them to go through.
But in a briefing for members of Congress late today, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin told lawmakers he's aware of reports that some Americans in Kabul have been harassed and beaten by Taliban fighters, calling that unacceptable. The president also left open the possibility of sending U.S. forces on rescue missions to extract Americans and Afghan allies who can't make it out. This as reports that U.S. helicopters are flying missions to evacuate 96 Afghans and bring them to the airport. The president warned against expanding the U.S. security perimeter around that airport and eliminating Taliban checkpoints blocking many from getting through.
It's likely to draw an awful lot of unintended consequences in terms of people who, in fact, are not part of the Taliban.
The president's pledge to evacuate Afghan allies does not match the reality on the ground, according to this Afghan interpreter, unnerved outside the airport.
I'm telling to the people, stay in their houses, do not come to this area. It's a very, very crazy situation right now. And I hope the situations get better because I see the kids are dying. It's very terrible.
And in the midst of all this chaos, there is a tiny bit of good news. The Pentagon giving an update on that baby, a Marine lifted over the wall at the airport, bringing it within the security perimeter there. That baby was treated at a nearby hospital. It is now back with its father and is safe. President Biden saying the U.S. is keeping close eyes on any possible terror threats at the airport. Nicole?
All right, yeah, so glad to know that father and baby are reunited. All right, Allison, thank you. Well, more help could be on the way as the U.S. tries to speed up those evacuations in Kabul. With an August 31st deadline looming, tens of thousands still waiting to be airlifted to safety. And News Nation correspondent Marky Martin joining us live from Dallas. So, Marky, some Border Patrol agents now being asked to deploy to Afghanistan.
Yeah, Nicole, that's exactly right. As of today, News Nation can confirm that there are Border Patrol agents here at the southern border that have been asked to temporarily deploy to Afghanistan to assist in those emergency evacuations that we are watching out of Kabul. Now, I will say right off the top, at this time, we are still uncertain how many agents have been asked to relocate. But today, a U.S. Customs and Border Protection spokesperson sent us this statement. saying CBP did solicit for a small number of volunteers from U.S. Border Patrol who have a background in vetting and processing to assist CBP officers overseas. The assistance of Border Patrol agents overseas will not affect the CBP mission on the southwest border. Now, the representative did go on to say that DHS has also already deployed personnel from CBP, ICE, as well as TSA to help in screening and vetting Afghans who are our allies, who were friendlies during the war, to bring them here to the United States. And should also mention, too, you know, at this time, that CBP spokesperson did not verify this, but some Border Patrol agents have come forward to say that that possible deployment could last anywhere from 30 to 90 days. Nicole.
All right, so Marky, obviously we know, that help is needed, but, it's hard to imagine that this won't have a big impact on the mission along the southern border there, because just last month, of course, that record number of migrants attempting to enter the country.
Yeah, Nicole, so the timing of this, and maybe even more specifically, the source from which this personnel is being taken, is rather interesting right now, because the U.S. southern border is still dealing with this surge of migrants. In fact, today, earlier this afternoon, we spoke to a former special agent with ICE, and he saw that statement that CBP released, and he said, I completely disagree with that. Take a listen to him saying that right here.
They've been overwhelmed for months. And so you talk about not being affected. They need more help down there. They need more bodies. They need more equipment. They need a lot more resources. And so if you take one Border Patrol agent away, that's gonna hurt them.
That was former Special Agent Victor Avila. Now, let's break down the numbers here for you. Just recently, in July alone, there were more than 210,000 illegal crossings here along the U.S.-Mexico border. And just a few days ago, Nicole, just in the Rio Grande Valley sector alone, agents came across almost 4,000 migrants in one day. The sector chief there saying that is the most in one day they have ever had on record. Nicole.
Yeah, we're certainly asking a lot of those Border Patrol agents. All right, Marky, thank you. Well, other big stories tonight. Right now, dozens of people still missing in North Carolina. We are taking you back to a place devastated after remnants of Tropical Storm Fred raced through, and New England bracing for its first direct hit by a hurricane in 3 decades. But right now, we do want to update you on the situation in Haiti, where new help is funneling into the island nation after that massive earthquake. News Nation's Brian Enton spent time today on the ground in Haiti.
More than 2,000 people dead and thousands more injured here in Haiti, almost 1 week since the earthquake struck. We're outside the Port-au-Prince airport, and take a look. These survivors continue to arrive here, like this man, obviously not in good shape, in a lot of pain, his leg badly damaged. And you see there's another person right there on the stretcher, both of them about to be loaded onto ambulances and finally taken to the airport. The U.S. Coast Guard and the Army, they've got several different helicopters here, a C-130. They are evacuating people from where the earthquake struck, bringing them here to Port-au-Prince. I mean, this man we see here clearly in a lot of pain, a broken leg, it looks like. Is this what you're seeing over and over?
A lot of fractures, a lot of open wounds, a lot of head injuries. Today we went to a hospital pad and then 2 remote landing zones, various injuries and various ages.
This is a very challenging operation for U.S. Coast Guard men and women, but they are specially trained to deal with these types of crises. We have some of the best pilots in the world.
So these Coast Guard helicopters continue to come in and out of Port-au-Prince nonstop, bringing more people who need to be rescued and get to the hospital. The Coast Guard tells us they are now ramping up their operation. This is basically a 24/7 operation here in Haiti. Nicole?
And Brian tagging along with the Coast Guard today. All right, thank you. All right, now we want to head up the U.S. coast to New England, where Tropical Storm Henri is taking aim. Here's a look at the radar. Right now, this storm expected to intensify into a hurricane tomorrow and make landfall in New England on Sunday. News Nation reporter Brittany Schaefer from our station WPRI is live tonight in New Bedford, Massachusetts. So, Brittany, how are people getting ready there?
Well, good evening to you, Nicole. We are on Pope's Island Marina, where we have seen dozens of people walking along this dock with ropes and bumpers in hand. Let me give you a look at what I mean there. These are lines, and they're used to use extra secure to keep this boat attached to this dock to ensure that during any storm surge, the boat does not drift a sea. Now, as far as the bumpers, this is what we're looking at. This one isn't exactly attached to the boat, but it's a big black-looking buoy that actually sits in between the boat and the dock to ensure that during those waves, the boat doesn't come crashing up against the dock to have any damage. Now, the deckhand of this marina actually tells me that this marina fares well compared to many others, and it's all because of this out at sea here. It's a 20-foot hurricane protection barrier that guards several coastal towns in southeastern New England from tidal flooding. But some boat owners we spoke to say even having the boats in the water is too risky for them. If we take a look over here, you can see there's actually some spots open at the marina, and that's because some boat owners opted to take their boats onto land. One boat owner tells me he saw destruction here from Hurricane Bob, and he doesn't want to take any chances. Now, Bob hit this area in 1991 and caused about $1.5 billion in damage to New England. That happened about 30 years ago this week, and this coastal storm coming in, Henri, that could be a potential hurricane, could be the worst storm we've seen in this area since then. Back to you, Nicole.
Oh, yeah, that boat owner, sustaining that damage 30 years ago and still remembers it. All right, well, of course, this requires a lot of preparation from the state, Brittany. So I know Governor Charlie Baker spoke earlier. What did he have to say?
Well, Governor Charlie Baker is preparing. He gave a long press conference basically saying that there could be 300,000 residents in the state of Massachusetts without power. He also activated 1,000 National Guard members here in the state to help in any way necessary. Nicole, back to you.
Preparing. All right, Brittany, thank you so much. Well, Chief Meteorologist Albert Ramon tracking Henri's path for us tonight. So, Albert, tell us, what is the latest on the projections, at least right now?
Tropical storm, as you mentioned, right now, but on the verge of becoming a hurricane. This is a look at the latest satellite picture, a 70-mile-per-hour tropical storm lifting up towards the north, paralleling the east coast and expected to get even stronger. First, the wide perspective on the track. The forward speed's going to pick up tonight into tomorrow as this gets to about an 85-mile-per-hour hurricane just off the mid-Atlantic coast. We'll zoom in to New England. As you mentioned, this is going to be potentially the first landfalling hurricane in 3 decades for southern New England. Included in that cone of uncertainty for Sunday late morning into the afternoon, New York City to Boston. So we're looking at potential not just impacts from heavy rainfall, but coastal surge, coastal flooding for places like coastal Connecticut, also Rhode Island into southeast Mass, Long Island, New York as well. Speaking of Long Island, hurricane warnings posted for Long Island, coastal Connecticut, New York City here in yellow. That's a tropical storm watch. And for Rhode Island and southeast Mass in peak, that's a hurricane watch. May see those get upgraded to warnings sometime over the weekend. Something we'll watch closely over the weekend here on News Nation, Nicole.
Yeah, lots of people potentially in that path. All right, Albert, thank you. On Noon Tonight, we know 4 people are confirmed dead after that massive flooding in the southeast. Ayla Ferrone from our Spartanburg station, WSPA, spent the past few days in the worst hit areas there. So, Ayla, right now, we know that the search continues.
It's here in the Crusoe community where search efforts are being focused. 4 people still missing in the storm. Scenes look a lot like this all across this area, with cars that have been washed away, foundations of homes that no longer exist, and trees down on power lines. A total of 4 people have been found dead, while 5 are still missing. And that's where search efforts are currently being concentrated. For those who are still unaccounted for, they're using canines and drones in those search efforts. Now, the people who live here are seeing their homes, their belongings, and their livelihoods piled up and just trying to salvage anything that's possible. Dozens of bridges taken out by those severe storms are now in the process of being repaired. Meanwhile, emergency services estimates hundreds of people here in western North Carolina have been displaced by that flooding. However, the sheriff estimates the cleanup here will continue for years. Reporting in Haywood County for News Nation, I'm Ayla Ferrone. Nicole, back to you.
All right, Ayla, thank you. Let's shift to the pandemic now. And starting today, people in San Francisco required to show proof of vaccination when entering indoor spaces. And unlike some mandates, San Francisco's does not allow for a recent negative COVID test in lieu of vaccine proof. NewsNation's Dan Kerman from our station KRON joining us live. So Dan, does this apply basically everywhere, or are some places exempt?
Well, basically the focus is on indoor places where you have to take your mask off. That is indoor drinking establishments and eating establishments. We're talking about bars and restaurants. We're talking about entertainment venues and clubs. In addition to that, this also applies to fitness centers and gyms and any sort of event with 1,000 people or more. The idea is they want to try and curb this surge of the Delta variant, and that's why before you enter a restaurant like this, you see a sign outdoor that says required to show proof of vaccine, and this is fully vaccinated, not just one shot, but they have to show proof that they are fully vaccinated and their ID. In general terms, we have found most people very accepting of this. San Francisco, for some time now, has been more restrictive than most areas, even in the Bay Area, when it comes to COVID and trying to protect its residents and its businesses. San Francisco's mayor has talked about not wanting things to have to shut down again. She says with this surge going on here like it is everywhere else, they think this is really the best way to protect people. And that is why before you go inside, you have got to show that proof. If you don't have the proof, most restaurants in San Francisco have set up outdoor tables, and these are outdoor tables that have become permanent in our parking spaces. And as a result, people will have another option for eating if they can't go inside. But for the most part, people are learning about this. They're told about this when they're making their reservations. If they're making their reservations online, there is an indication there that they have to do that as well. The fitness centers we've talked to have indicated that they are all for this. They say it's the best way to protect their patrons and their staff. Live in San Francisco, I'm Dan Kerman. Nicole, back to you.
All right, Dan, thank you. All right, well, people in San Francisco seem to be okay with this for the most part, according to Dan, but vaccine mandates like those are expected, though, to set off an increase in religious exemptions requests, even as Pope Francis urging everyone to be vaccinated for the good of all and as a gesture of love. NewsNation's Nancy Liu live tonight in Hawthorne, California. So, Nancy, we know in San Francisco, according to Dan, people are okay with it. But is there also a rush on these religious exemption letters?
Yeah, it is a vaccine out cited by many workplaces and agencies. So these religious exemption letters, they are making the rounds all over the country. But according to some legal experts, such letters may be unnecessary and irrelevant.
This Sunday morning, if you come to Destiny, we'll be able to give this to you.
On Instagram, the lead pastor of Destiny Christian Church in Rocklin, California, issues an open invitation to anyone seeking religious exemption from mandatory vaccination.
We are not anti-vax, but we are pro-freedom here at Destiny. And so working with our legal team, we have come up with a religious exemption. If you feel morally compromised by taking this vaccine, we have a form for you.
Numerous churches across the country are offering the same, including Freedom House in Charlotte, North Carolina. A pastor there also sounded off on Instagram.
Unmask your kids and say no to mandatory vaccine.
Vacunarse es un modo sencillo pero profundo.
Just this week, Pope Francis urged the world's hundreds of millions of Catholics to get vaccinated, calling it an act of love. But some among the faithful continue to seek a religious out. Law firms everywhere have been inundated with cases and questions about vaccine mandates. But when it comes to exemption forms issued by churches, they may not be worth the paper they're written on.
It's fine to not have a religious letter. It's actually probably a little strange almost to have a letter unless the letter is explaining the basis for the religious exemption, not just the religion, but the reason behind the necessary exemption.
And even then, the document may not hold up in court. Legal experts say federal law does prohibit religious-based discrimination by employers, but at the same time, OSHA requires a hazard-free work environment, and for now, COVID-19 remains a public health threat. Nicole?
It certainly does. All right, Nancy Liu, thank you. Well, straight ahead, Texas Democrats finally back after almost 5.5 weeks of holding out over that voting bill. We are live in Austin with what's happening inside the Capitol right now. Plus, the man who claimed to have a bomb in his pickup truck near the Capitol telling a judge he hasn't taken his mind medication. What she ordered him to do, that's next on Rush Hour. Texas Democrats have been unified all summer in their fight to stop a GOP-led voting bill, but some are calling out their colleagues for returning to the state capitol after that long absence to break quorum. News Nation's Maggie Glenn from our Austin station KXAN joining us live. Maggie, we know you were there last night when they finally gave in, finally hit that number for quorum. So is this a surprise, or at this point were we kind of expecting this?
Well, Nicole, we knew that it was going to be happening at some point this week. We just didn't know when. There were lots of rumors flying around at the beginning of the week about different Democrats that were still holding out, that were thinking about returning to the Capitol. But it wasn't until late yesterday afternoon when we got a press release from 3 Houston Democrats who officially announced they would be returning to the Capitol. And that's when it really became more of a possibility. And that's when everyone kind of flooded to the Capitol and had a sense of a chance of quorum for the first time in 38 days. And the Democrats that are still holding out, that are still refusing to go to the Capitol right now, they were extremely vocal about their anger and their frustration with their colleagues. They said they were not informed on a caucus call that happened just about 2 hours before quorum was actually met. So they were just frustrated with the lack of communication, and it kind of shows just a lack of unity among Democrats in Texas right now.
All right, so lack of unity, some frustration there. 38 days since quorum. So, Maggie, what happens now, and how much longer do these lawmakers even have in the special session to try to pass some legislation?
Right. Well, once they gavelled in last night, it was actually pretty uneventful because all they did was read through a list of first readings of proposed bills and then referred those bills to committee. And then they gavelled out and won't be returning to the House floor until Monday. Now, there will be some committee hearings over the weekend, and the elections bill that actually caused the Democrats to flee and to break quorum to start with will be heard on Monday morning from the Capitol.
And Maggie, we know that there was a threat of arrests. There were 52 civil arrest warrants issued over a week ago, and we know you were the only reporter there as that paperwork was delivered. So how does a civil arrest even work?
So it was interesting to watch it play out because it's really only happened here in Texas 2 other times in history. And so these arrest warrants were officially served to the offices of the absent Democratic members, but it really didn't end up being that eventful. The paper was simply slipped under a door or handed to a staff member of the missing Democrat. And then they were given permission to actually go and physically arrest these Democrats, but they wouldn't be taking them to jail. They would have just been taking them back to the Capitol. But we didn't see that happen. And now that that they do have quorum, the Speaker of the House actually rescinded those civil arrest warrants. And so we won't be seeing any actual arrests going forward.
Yeah, because I guess they're back at the Capitol now. All right, Maggie, we know you've been following
They've got the
this
numbers
from the beginning. Thank you so much for keeping us updated. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Nicole.
All right, well, tonight, a mother's heartbreaking story. Her 3-year-old daughter in the fight of her life against COVID-19 as ICUs fill up with children. And some new research suggests those plastic shields meant to protect us all from COVID, well, they may actually be doing more harm than good. Welcome back. Here's what's happening in your nation right now. And we start with breaking news. People running for their lives on a crowded beach in Michigan. This is in South Haven. It's about an hour outside of Kalamazoo. Authorities tell News Nation someone started shooting this afternoon. We know one man was struck by a bullet and died. A woman is in critical condition at the hospital. Police say the shooter then turned the gun on himself. They do think this was a random attack and that the threat is over. The shooter has not yet been identified. Well, President Biden today reaffirming his commitment to bring Americans in Kabul back home. The U.S. saying 13,000 people have been taken out of Afghanistan in the last 5 days. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin saying he's aware of reports that some Americans in Kabul have been harassed and beaten by Taliban fighters, calling that unacceptable. And a judge ordering a mental competency hearing for the man who parked outside the Library of Congress and claimed to have a bomb. 49-year-old Floyd Ray Roseberry from North Carolina remains in custody. He'll be in court again next week. Roseberry was arrested after a 5-hour standoff with police yesterday. A federal appeals court says the CDC's eviction moratorium can remain in place for now. A 3-judge panel today rejected a bid by Alabama and Georgia realtors to block the moratorium reinstated by the CDC. The National Association of Realtors plans to file an emergency motion to the Supreme Court. But tonight we get you to that heartbreaking story out of Oklahoma. A 3-year-old girl fighting for her life against COVID-19, and her mom is documenting her daughter's battle with the virus every step of the way on social media. News Nation's Janelle Fort has their story.
3-year-old Aurora Cannon lays in an Oklahoma pediatric ICU. Tubes connected to her small body, a face mask over her nose and mouth to get oxygen to her struggling lungs. This is one of a series of videos her mom Amelia has posted to Facebook documenting her battle with COVID-19. Another video shows a machine rattling the little girl's body. Mom says it's to loosen secretions from Aurora's lungs, adding that she's scared. Aurora was diagnosed with the coronavirus 3 weeks ago. Amelia says she's an ER nurse on the front lines of the pandemic. She believes she got COVID from work and then brought it home to her family. This sad story depicts the grim reality of pediatric ICUs across the country, filling up with children, many too young to be vaccinated.
It's been extremely difficult for everybody.
Kids under 12 currently aren't eligible to get the vaccine, leaving them more vulnerable to infection from the highly contagious Delta variant. The number of children in the U.S. hospitalized with COVID-19 hit a record high of just over 1,900 this weekend.
The most common thing that keeps coming up is, why my child and why now? And could this have been prevented?
And this has to be a tough situation for any parent to be in. Tonight, Aurora is on a BiPAP machine. She's scheduled to get more x-rays tomorrow. But Nicole, your heart just has to go out to her family and the many other families battling this really devastating virus.
Oh, absolutely. We all want to see Aurora win that fight. All right, Janelle, thank you. All right, well, now let's talk about those plastic or plexiglass shields meant to protect us against COVID-19. We were told they helped shield us from the deadly virus. They were put up everywhere, right? Well, News Nation correspondent Tom Negevin live in New York City tonight. And so, Tom, there's some new research suggesting they could actually make things worse.
That's exactly right, Nicole. This is science doing what it does, evolving based on new data, new research, new information. And now the same experts who've been telling us about the efficacy of these plastic plexiglass shields that we've seen right all over restaurants, bars when they're open, gyms, schools, offices, even places of worship. May not work at all. In fact, may do more harm than good. There have been questions about these shields for a pretty long time, particularly here in New York, a city that was kind of an early adopter, bringing them back early, hoping to bring the economy back along with them. But questions about whether they work, whether they disrupted airflow, which science now says turns out they do. Indoor airflow, apparently a pretty complex science, Nicole. That's why there's scientists who study it, engineers who look at aerosol disbursement around these shields, and they say that they can create dead air, dead spaces of air inside a building, inside a room, where normally air recirculates every 15 to 30 minutes, replacing the air inside a room completely in that span of time, depending on the size of the room and the ventilation system. These can create dead spaces where the viral load can actually increase, creating a concentrated area of COVID-19 virus, a very concerning bit of information. Add to that what scientists say may be a false sense of security that this is lulling people into, saying, you know what, there's a plastic barrier, don't need to worry too much about any other kind of personal protective equipment. Well, again, turns out you do. We've been talking to experts in that field as well, virologists, infectious disease experts, and they say, luckily for all of us, Nicole, there is a shield that works, and I'm rooting around in my pocket for one right now. It's this one right here. They say this works just fine. Don't forget to wear it if you're in an area where you're around a lot of people, and the Delta variant, as you know, is still very prevalent. The doctors at hospitals across the country, including the good ones here at Mount Sinai in New York, say, listen, they've got many, many years of experience with these things, protecting them from illnesses of all kinds. They work. They also say, Nicole, get the vaccine.
Yeah, I know. I think it gets frustrating because people hear things work, they don't work, but we do know what does work. That is masks. All right, Tom, thank you. All right, let's switch to something that we think is going to make you smile this summer, starting to wind down. Well, you might not like that, but kids starting to go back to school, you may not like that, but people across the country gathering under Friday night lights for high school football once again, some for the first time since the pandemic started. So let's give you a live look. This is Zionville High School. It's about 20 miles outside of Indianapolis. They're gearing up for their first game of the season. And it's not just about the players on the field. In Des Moines, Iowa, marching bands rehearsing to bring the school spirit to the games this season. News Nation reporter Dee Jackson is live from Hewitt-Trussville High School. This is in Alabama. So Dee, what is the energy like out there right now? We see the cheerleaders behind you.
I got to tell you, Nicole, if there's one thing that separates Alabama from anybody else, it's high school football, and this is no exception. I have the lovely ladies from Hewitt-Trussville. The cheering squad is here and ready to go. And anytime you talk about high school football, it's that type of energy that comes to mind first. But one of the main concerns this year has been the COVID vaccine, and has everybody been vaccinated? The Delta variant has taken a lot of people out as far as what they plan to do for high school football. Well, here at this stadium, there's a sign outside that says masks are recommended but not required. I talked to some high school football coaches, and they told me today that they are taking all the precautions to keep their teams healthy. How? Well, they're making these guys wear masks on and off the bus, and they're also telling me that they are making sure that social distancing is at a premium so that everyone stays healthy to get back out here on the field and have a normal, or as close to normal, football season as they've had in the past. Hopefully we'll see a championship caliber football game tonight here in Alabama. But one of the biggest stories here is Brian Harsin, the Auburn University head football coach, tested positive for COVID yesterday. So we're keeping a close eye on that and how he is going to actually coach his college football team. But high school still reigns king here on Friday nights. I got to tell you, these ladies are gearing up to send you out with a little bit of spirit. Ladies, take it away. Give them a little Alabama spirit.
Let's go Huskies! We love it, Dee. I was going to ask you to have them do it.
All right, Nicole.
We love
Back
it.
to you.
We love it. Thank you so much. All right, well, tonight, Jeopardy is in search of a new host again. He hasn't even started, but one of the show's new hosts is under fire for some old comments, and he's stepping down. We'll tell you what happened and what's next for the beloved game show. Almost as quickly as Jeopardy had a new host, it's back to square one. Executive producer turned co-host Mike Richards stepping down from the on-air role after recent backlash. Richards' comments on an old podcast leaving viewers with some serious questions about his character. So let's bring in News Nation's Sam Rubin from our station KTLA. So, Sam, did the powers that be not do a background check on him?
And the answer is, Nicole, they have botched this quite completely. After a seemingly nationwide search that has gone on for months, including a slew of on-air auditions, they came up with the inside man, Mike Richards, who'd been the executive producer of the show. But was there a thorough vetting? And or are the knives out for Mike Richards, in that these were very unwelcome comments from a podcast that wasn't really heard back in 2013 and 2014 when they first aired. Nonetheless, Mike Richards is now out, and here they go again.
All right, so Sam, we know, at the start of this, we said he was actually a co-host. So the other co-host, Mayim Bialik, will she be solo? Will there be a split of duties, or is it really square one and they're just going to start the search over completely?
Well, I guess it is square 1.1. Mayim Bialik remains as the primetime host. There's a special already contracted for ABC, a college week, and I think she'll be involved in additional programs. I don't know if producers want her and or if her schedule would allow her to be the main daily host of Jeopardy. She's busy with other things. She is not out, but I don't think she's going to be offered that main daily gig. We'll find out this weekend. I think Jeopardy producers, Sony executives putting their heads together. My anticipation is we'll have a big announcement on Monday as to the plan going forward. For now, what I think that will be is here are our temporary hosts to get us through the rest of the year. They desperately want to put this behind them.
Really quickly, Sam, do you think he stays on as executive producer?
I think it's an open question. He stays on for now. I don't think he necessarily lasts too long.
All right, Sam, we love talking to you. Thank you so much. Well, this is something we've all talked about happening in the future. Well, the future is now. Next on Rush Hour, we will show you the next generation robots that could soon be part of everyday life, taking all of our jobs. Is this scary? I don't know. Sci-fi is about to get real, really fast, from rockets to robots. Elon Musk says Tesla is building a humanoid bot. And in similar news, Disney moves from the mouse to free-roaming robots at its theme parks. Let's bring in Corey Johnson. He's money manager and host of the Daily Drill Down podcast. Corey, I don't know if I should be scared, if I should be happy, but let's talk Disney.
You look happy. You don't look scared. Disney is spending a fortune on their theme parks, and they always have. How much of a fortune? They usually spend about $1 billion every 13 weeks in capital expenditures. That number fell out to about $517 million because they're working on things for the future for this company, even after a really difficult last year. And those things include robots. And they're working on these animatronic robots that are using the best kinds of sensors and springs and semiconductors and every other thing you can imagine, and plastics to simulate the movement of living things. You know, we've always been so fascinated by robots when they look like living beings, right? The robots that assemble our cars, the robots that vacuum our floors, maybe not so exciting, but the robots that look like Groot, the robots that look like Rosie, those are the robots that seem to capture our imagination. And Disney applying a great story in the New York Times today about how Disney is just spending so much money and working with some big robotics companies to try to bring the best level of the imitation of what, in particular, what humans do and Groot can do to show us a different kind of experience at their theme parks, and spending tens of, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to do this.
Absolutely not, Corey. The less human, the better. That's what I think. All right, Elon Musk working on a humanoid robot, so already I'm out, made for what he calls dangerous, repetitive, and boring tasks. Let's take a look. All right, very fancy introduction here, but Corey, tell us, what are the economic implications? Is this even feasible? Do I need to be scared?
I don't think you need to be scared, because I don't think this is going to happen. This was the silliest press conference I've ever seen. He took the stage after like a minute and a half of this seemingly amazing robot dancing, and yes, doing the robot. No, I will not. Doing the robot. When he said, oh, that was just someone in a suit dressed like a robot. Oh. But next year we're going to have this robot. Okay, the Tesla robot in a year. I'm calling myself a skeptic. Tesla, remember, promised us a Tesla Semi by 2019. We haven't seen it. They promised us a Cybertruck by this year. We haven't seen it. They promised us 1 million Tesla robotaxis by the end of last year. Nicole, have you seen any robotaxis yet?
Have not, no. All right, good.
No,
all right,
so
all right.
I don't believe we're going to see a Tesla robot next year. I think you're safe. I think you don't have to be scared of that.
I appreciate
you can be scared of something else if you want.
There's plenty of other things for me to be scared of. Corey, always great talking to you. Always love your honesty. You are the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the Downland Report starts at the top of the hour. Joe is down in our studio. Joe, tell us what you're working on.
Man, you guys are harsh. He did get to space and back,
He
right?
did. He's kind of busy, I guess.
Yeah. All right, Nicole, tonight on the Downland Report, President Biden doubles down on his decision to pull out of Afghanistan after a messy withdrawal. So how will he go about bringing all Americans home? And did you hear about Border Patrol agents being pulled from the southern border to the front lines of Afghanistan? What kind of strain would that have on those staying behind as migrants cross in record numbers? We'll ask a former agent. And a restaurant where you have to prove you haven't been vaccinated. So a comedian tried it out, and he joins us to talk about what happened. And there's video as well, so you'll want to see that and more at the top of the hour, Nicole. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some laughs with that one. All right, Joe, thank you. After getting stuck and causing a global backup today, it was smooth sailing for the massive Ever Given cargo ship traveling through the Suez Canal. We continue tonight live from our News Nation headquarters here in Chicago. Here's a look at what's going on in your nation right now. And New England bracing for its first hurricane in 30 years. Henri expected to turn into a hurricane sometime tomorrow, could impact those New England states by Sunday. The governor expecting about 300,000 people to lose power. 1,000 National Guard members are on standby. That cargo ship that blocked the Suez Canal for nearly a week earlier this year, well, it is back for another voyage. This time, the Ever Given managed to cross through the canal without any problems on its way from the UK to China. Back in March, you may remember that ship drifted and ran aground, blocking the canal and triggering a global supply shortage. A murder hornet nest has been found in Washington state just a few days after a live hornet was spotted nearby. The Asian giant hornet nest was located in a rural part of the state near the town of Blaine. Officials say it's possible there are other nests out there and they'll keep searching. And Major League Baseball making it official today. There will be another Field of Dreams game next season. The Chicago White Sox beat the New York Yankees in the inaugural game last week in Dyersville, Iowa. Next year's matchup will pit the Chicago Cubs against the Cincinnati Reds in August. And that is all for Rush Hour. Thank you so much for watching. The Dahlin Report is next. Please have a great weekend.